Hi, my name is Jared O'Connor. Today we have Isabel from the Seattle Children's Hospital, and she's going to be talking about safe medicine storage. If you do have questions, please use the comment section, and then at the end of the presentation, we will address those. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Isabel Sakamoto. I'm the Suicide and Injury Prevention Program Manager at Seattle Children's, and a piece of my work is centered around safe medicine storage and disposal, with a focus specifically on children and teens. So we work with community organizations, medical providers, patient families, and families in the community to offer education on this topic with the intent to prevent unintentional ingestion and misuse of medicine and suicide by encouraging safe storage and disposal. So thank you to the Washington Poison Center for hosting this series and for inviting me to share a little bit about this topic. And thanks to all of you in attendance today. So as Jared mentioned, please feel free to ask questions anytime using the chat box. I may not see them until the end, but I will address them. So please feel free to add those at any time. And I believe that this recording will be shared, and I'm also happy to share slides if that is helpful. So I'd just like to start with kind of setting some context and highlighting injury deaths on a national level. So as we can see here, the top 10 leading causes of death in the United States for those ages 1 to 44 are unintentional injuries. That includes opioid overdoses, unintentional poisoning, also things like motor vehicle crashes and unintentional falls. We also see suicide now being the second leading cause of death for this age group. And unfortunately, those numbers are continuing to rise. So this chart in particular, now that we know that unintentional injuries are a leading cause or the leading cause of death for those ages 1 to 44. This chart just breaks down what those specific unintentional injuries are in all of the colored boxes that we see here. And in the green highlighted boxes, those are unintentional poisonings or overdoses. And we can see that that is a leading cause of injury-related death for all age groups starting at age 10. So throughout this presentation, I'll be referring to medicine misuse, and that includes taking someone else's medicine, taking too much medicine, or taking medicine in any other way than how it was prescribed. So that could include mixing medicine with alcohol and other drugs. And of course, misuse can lead to physical dependence and addiction, and so prescription pain medications are a common avenue of opioid addiction. Children and teens, though, don't always realize the dangers of medicine misuse or may misunderstand what misuse is. So a common misperception is that pills like prescription drugs and over-the-counter medications are safer or less harmful to one's body than other kinds of drugs, but we know how harmful they can be. And youth who misuse prescription medicines are more likely to report use of other drugs. Problematic misuse of medication often begins during the teen and young adult years, and these patterns established in youth can continue into adulthood. And so what we know about teens' perceptions and behavior regarding use of prescription drugs and opioids in Washington State are based on findings from the Washington State Healthy Youth Survey. This, for context, for those that aren't familiar with the survey, this is a tool to measure health risks and behaviors that contribute to morbidity and mortality and social problems among youth in Washington State. So versions of the self-report survey are completed every other year by 8th, 10th, and 12th graders. So this information here is comparing results between the 2016 and 2018 school years. So according to the 2018 Washington State Healthy Youth Survey, which is the most recent survey available currently, we saw around 3,000 students in 12th grade reporting use of painkillers to get high in any given month. However, this behavior has decreased since the last survey was taken in 2016, but we did see misuse remaining stable for 8th and 10th graders between these 2 years. We also see that almost 1 in 10 teens perceive prescription drug misuse to have little to no risk of harm, although most teens do report that their parents feel it is very wrong to use prescription drugs not prescribed to them. And so overall, there's this use of opioids remains a serious concern with a very high risk of addiction, injury, and death, which all in all points to the fact, right, that state, local, and community prevention efforts are crucial for addressing teen opioid misuse. And so while I don't have all of the answers as to why teens experience misuse, we can start to understand this issue by exploring risk and protective factors. So risk factors being the characteristics or conditions that increase the likelihood of experiencing an adverse health or quality of life outcome, while protective factors are those characteristics or conditions that decrease or mitigate the likelihood of experiencing that and experiencing a more positive outcome. So it is important to consider both components as a public health approach to preventing injuries and other public health problems. So these are just a few examples of the factors that could increase risk for prescription drug use, as well as factors that may help protect against that behavior as well. And this is by no means an exhaustive list, and I've noted a few additional resources for more information on these types of factors. But lack of knowledge, easy access, and parental monitoring and engagement, including things like safely disposing of medications that are no longer needed, are a few factors that stand out to me when thinking about considerations for parents and caregivers of children and teens, specifically to prevent misuse or to help prevent it. So when we consider how adults can support children and teens in this way, we suggest starting with a conversation, engaging with kids and teens by taking opportunities to have conversations with them about the dangers of taking medicine that's not prescribed to them, and keeping these lines of communication open. And then combining that with secure storage, and we could do this by restricting access to medicines by keeping them locked in a safe or a lockable box. This could include over-the-counter and prescription medicines, especially if you have large quantities of medications, and if it is possible to avoid buying things like Costco-sized bottles of over-the-counter medications and things like that, we would encourage that if possible. But if you do have those things in your home, just consider maybe locking up the larger containers and keeping more smaller or minimal amounts more easily accessible to those who need it on a regular basis. And so safe storage, of course, is protecting the children and teens in your home. It's also potentially protecting other people who may visit your home, like visitors, friends, other people who may be coming in and out of the house. We also have active monitoring, so keeping an eye on medication that isn't in the home, right? Noting the number of pills in bottles or packets and keeping track of use and refills of prescriptions. It's also a good idea to supervise teens as they start to take medicine on their own, as parental monitoring has been shown to decrease opioid misuse among adolescents. And then we also have proactive, safe disposal of leftover medicine or expired medicine as a way to prevent misuse as well. So making it a habit to dispose of unused and expired medicine so that you don't have a large stock of them available in the house. And so all of these strategies work together to decrease medicine misuse. And I would be remiss to discuss this topic without explicitly just acknowledging suicide prevention as well. So medicines are a common method for suicide attempt, one of the most common methods, and thoughts of suicide are more common than people may think or realize. In 2018, 1 out of 5 10th and 12th graders in Washington State reported that they considered attempting suicide. And safe storage and disposal of medicine is one suicide prevention method or tactic to help essentially create time and distance, right, between someone who's actively thinking about suicide and acting on that thought. And those, especially for adolescents or teens, the time between deciding to die by suicide and attempting can be as brief as 10 minutes or less. So creating that time and distance is essential. And just as a reminder, there are resources available to anyone who is struggling with suicidal thoughts. Crisis supports are available. We have a couple of things noted here, life or hotlines and text lines as well. These are available for free all hours of the day, accessible again by phone or text. And so it would be a good idea to program these in your phone if you haven't already. So I'm going to speak a little bit more to secure storage and disposal specifically. The safest way to keep medications stored is to lock them up where others cannot access them. And again, this serves to protect the teens and children living in the home, as well as potential friends of theirs coming over, other guests who may be visiting. For younger children, storing medicine, up and away is a good practice, but locking them up is ideal as kids get older. Most teens and young adults who report misuse or abuse of prescription medicine say that they get it from friends, family, and acquaintances. So again, just thinking about not only your own kids, but those kids who visit your home. So some things to consider when looking for a medicine locking device or a storage device. There aren't clearly defined standards that I've been able to find for personal medication locking devices, but you could consider one that's foster care approved or recommended by a reputable organization. You'll want something that's durable, that isn't easily broken into. I've found that products with externally facing latches on some boxes can be really quickly and easily pried into and locked back into place to make it appear as though it had never been tampered with. Some bags have combination locks on them, but those can also easily be cut through depending on the material. With just a regular pair of scissors, I've done that really effortlessly. So no product, of course, is guaranteed to be tamper-proof, but naturally some products will be more secure than others, and everyone's needs will be different. Also consider, again, using a combination lock as opposed to a keyed lock, just because kids often know where keys are kept and those keys can get lost. And then prices will vary, but you should be able to find something within the $10, $20 to $40 price range. And then the size needs will vary between families depending on how much medicine is at home and if there are medicines that are needed daily, considering how those medicines will be stored at home, but also during travel as well. Just for reference here, like this 8 by 6 by 4 dimension of a container can hold around 12 standard prescription bottles. And when medicines are no longer needed or expired, just safely disposing of those as soon as possible is ideal. So you could participate in a drug take-back day. The next National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day is October 23rd of this year. You can use a medicine kiosk or a drug mailback found through takebackyourmeds.org. So that's what is pictured here, this map that you see with all of the different icons. Those are disposal kiosks that you might see at pharmacies or law enforcement offices. And Washington Department of Health, their Safe Medication Return program has expanded its services to offer more of these disposal kiosks across the state. There are more options for mailback services if you need those. So you just put in a request for an envelope. They will send it to you to put your medications in to return. These are free services. You can also use a disposal product if your pharmacy provides it, like one common one is Dispose RX. You could also ask pharmacy, local police or sheriff stations if they will accept prescription medicines or know where you can dispose of them safely. So if there is a medicine disposal kiosk or a drug mailback service or option available in your community, I would say that's ideal. But if you're in a pinch without easy access to these options, you can do a little bit of DIY disposal if needed to avoid flushing those down the toilet or just tossing them in the trash. So what you can do is fill a container with water, making sure that the container has a lid, add something inedible. Some people use coffee grounds and other inedible substances to the container, adding whole pills to the mixture, and then placing that container in the garbage close to trash collection day, but reminding to remove labels from bottles as well so that your personal information isn't there, and then making sure that the trash isn't easy for people or pets to access. So I will conclude with just a final few considerations as well regarding medicine safety. Please don't flush medicines down the drain or the toilet. This protects the environment by keeping harmful substances out of the water supply. Never share medicines with anyone else. A reminder again to remove personal information from prescription bottles or pill packages before throwing away the container so your personal information isn't there. And then encouraging friends, relatives, and neighbors to safely dispose of their medicines as well. So are just some references. And then my email if you have questions, and some resources available on our website noted there. Let's see.
Hi, Isabel.
Hi.
Excellent presentation. So some questions here. What is one thing that you wish everybody knew about overdoses?
One thing I wish that everyone knew about overdoses, I guess I do tend to think more from children's and teens perspective, but I guess I would reiterate or want to share that substances like pills and over-the-counter products like Tylenol and ibuprofen may seem harmless, but they can really be dangerous when misused and can obviously cause overdose. And so just being careful not to underestimate the dangers of those.
Excellent, excellent. Another question. After being on here today and listening to you, what's one action step that you would wish that the audience would take?
Yeah, so I guess one action step could be to find a disposal kiosk near you. So you kind of know where one is in your area or options for that. I would also encourage parents and adults who care for kids, of course, to just engage in caring dialogue with their children around this topic about the dangers of things like medicine misuse, and just to do what everyone who is here today is already doing by learning and educating themselves on the topic.
I think that's really important, especially I think people underestimate exactly how much impact parents talking to their kids can have.
Absolutely.
Last question. We've engaged in a lot of hard topics today. To round out on a positive note, what's one thing can you share with us? What gives you hope with your work?
Yeah, absolutely. Essentially, the fact that overdose is preventable. Like there are all things that we can do to help prevent them. And so that's what keeps me going.
Looking through the comments a little bit more, we have, what is the youngest age that you have all seen with the intent to harm via medication?
That's a really good question. I don't know specifically the youngest age that we've ever seen come through, but I know at least, so you said with intentional ingestion, is that correct?
I believe that's what she's asking.
Yeah, so children as young as 10, I know that we screen for suicide, for example, in the hospital, do screen positive for suicide. So they are thinking about that as young as 10 and maybe even younger. That doesn't necessarily answer the question about intentional ingestion of medicines that we specifically see by kids in our department. But I'm just thinking about the correlation between suicide and medicine.
That's always heartbreaking, especially with the young age. And then, sorry, I'm reading some more comments. Oh, yeah, just saying that she's amazed on it. Anybody that does have any questions regarding harm reduction or prevention, feel free to call us or email the Washington Poison Center. This is our help hotline, 1-800-222-1222. Call us at any time. We'll have an expert, either pharmacist or nurse that's what we call a spy, answer the phone and give you prompt advice. Well, with that, I think we are about done. Thank you, Isabel, for coming and speaking on safe medicine storage today. Excellent presentation.
Thank you very much. And thanks for all of your questions and for hosting this.